Something told me today wasn't going to work. Right, I'm just going to restart this countdown and skip it to 3 minutes in. So, right, okay. Let's go cut with that. Ding! And then we're going to cut with that. Cut. Then we're going to go to that. And then we're going to go fade. Definitely can't not have me dance. Shazam! That's what happens when automation goes a bit wrong. Hello everyone. Sorry we're late. That's my fault. I had something wrong with the clock on my PC, so I thought I'll just reset the time. Don't want to be late. And then everything went wrong. Anyway, it all kind of went wrong, but we're here now. Okay, I know we've got Kate here, and we have somebody else. Who's that? Oh, I see him. We have Priestley here. That'll be our mate Simon coming in on his gig. So you haven't seen this intro before. Exciting, isn't it? See, it's really good that. I like that intro. No matter how I feel before I start this gig, I think, when I run the intro, I always feel pretty much better because, of course, I can show you all how I can't dance. So there you go. What do you think of that intro? Verdict 1 to 10? Possible 3? On a good day with a wind behind me, maybe. Okay, good to see you guys here. And anyone else who may be lurking, and I haven't seen them yet. So, tonight's episode's about anger. Do you know what? I could have really got angry when everything just went wrong, but I think I was more panic-stricken rather than angry. Didn't have time for anger. That's interesting. Maybe that's a thought to think about tonight, when you don't have time to get angry. Very you. Okay, let's have all these notes. So we have for my dance, we have out of 10, maybe an 11. Hey, excellent. I'm your number one fan now. Brilliant. And what have we got? We got one in from Kate as well, which is very you, Alex. Superb. Yeah, it is a bit me, isn't it? I just wanted something that's a bit different. And you guys know we're going to be working on this show, make it a bit more slicker, I think. A bit more slicker. Now, of course, I've got Revo with me. Let's just say hello, Revo. Are you there?
Hi.
Right, you want to say hello to everyone?
Hello. Hi, everybody. Hope you're okay. Good to see you. Look into the camera, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I have my mic off as well, so there you go. One of my worst failings. So this is the best way I think we can get us both on screen. And of course, I'm going to put out the link if anyone wants to be on screen with us and wants to chat to us. I know Kate's done it a couple of times in the past. And who else has we got? I can't remember the lady's name. Is it Lynn?
Lynn, yeah.
Is it Lynn? So Lynn's been here in the past, and she was quite keen to come on. So maybe Simon might want to come on at some point. Okay. Actually, I must ask you why you changed your name from Vicarious Big to Priestley. You'll have to give us the rundown of that. Anyway, let's just switch back to me for a second. So, here we go. Right, so anger. Let's just go through the typical synonyms and antonyms to start with. Acrimony, animosity, displeasure, temper, violence, petulance. Yeah, petulance. You have to have young people, don't you? Petulance. Hissy fit, quite like that. Toys out of pram. I added that because it's not actually on the list. And then we've got ill humour, ill temper. So they're kind of the synonyms for anger. So antonyms: calm, nice. Cheer, delight, ease, glee. Goodwill, happiness, kind of. So if the overriding word is anger, what's the overriding word for the opposite? Is it joy? Don't know. Do you think that Elaine is bringing you on?
I don't know, really.
Think joy could be a thing?
It could be. You tend to think joy's the the opposite of misery, don't you? But I don't know. It's a tricky one, I think.
Well, no, is misery happy? Is happy and sad? Is misery sad? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, anger's a hard one to sort of think, well, that's the opposite of it, isn't it? I think that's all.
Have you done a big update on the anger document?
Oh, only mine. Oh, is it the shared one?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just wondered,
sorry.
Where did all that text come from?
No, that was just me putting a few bits in. Am I supposed to be on the screen, by the way, because no one can see me?
No.
No, all right, it's all right.
Stop bashing my production. So we go peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, anger and peace. There we go. It took a vicar to figure that out.
Yeah.
Oh, Angel, sorry, you're a vicar, aren't you? All right. Okay, let's do this then. Let's move you across. And let's put me on the top window like that. And we'll go through it. So, do you want to take the next bit? Have a look at the definitions then, Angel.
Definitions, okay. There's a couple of things. So, anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility towards someone or something. And the second part, it says anger's an emotion that's characterised by an antagonism towards someone or something you feel has deliberately done you wrong.
Yeah, see, we talked about this, deliberately done you wrong.
Yeah.
I think we get angry about things that aren't even done deliberately, don't we?
Yeah.
People do things and we get angry about it, especially when they've done it for the 10th time, Angel. Do you know what I mean? And you've said, I don't like that, and you still do it. Yeah, we can, Anger's an interesting thing, isn't it? I think about anger and how quickly we come to anger. Often it kind of... when we're in a good state of mind, when we're in a good place. Hang on, I've got the wrong thing here. 1 minute, I want that one up because now I'm in the middle. Often, if we're in the wrong place at the start, then we can become quick to anger. And I think about, I was thinking of the term punchy. We can all get a bit punchy, aren't we, when we're tired or everything's the wrong thing and we become snappy and easily angered. We can become really easily angered, can't we, when you think about it?
Yeah, I think so. I've got to say, it's like, I was thinking sometimes there's a bit of a fine line between being angry and being irritated, isn't it? Maybe anger's a bit stronger than just being annoyed because somebody's done something that you keep asking them about, because that might not actually fit that category. What were the words? Towards someone you feel's deliberately done you wrong, isn't it? I think it gets more intense if you actually think, well, they've done that deliberately, like they've let you down, or you've asked somebody to do something and they've just not bothered,
But then equally, you can kind of go from a state of being angry, and you can also be kind of upset. So upset and anger are fairly closely linked, aren't they?
I think so.
So, what else have we got on there on that anger facts and stuff?
Well,
hang on. Let's have a quick look before we bring you in. Let's just see this comment in from Kate. I think that it refers to how you perceive it as opposed to whether it was deliberately done.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because you can tend sometimes you can think, well, she or he did that deliberately, or they did that on purpose, and sometimes it's got nothing to do with that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just something that you don't know the reasons why things happen or whatever. People don't do what you think they're supposed to do or whatever, or you expected them to do. It can sometimes just be other reasons that have got nothing to do with you personally, can't it? So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's part of it, I think.
But again, I think the perception thing can come from a state of mind prior to actually the event happening.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm much more likely to, even just little things like tonight. I'm tired, really tired today, folks. So if I'm not on form, I am feeling really tired. And just before we set up today, I, for the second time today, spilt a glass of water. Because
I have to just interject that this second glass of water I witnessed it. I didn't witness it. I could see it just off screen, and it went across the room. So not just a small tip. It was like batted, from baseball with a laptop, which was quite impressive. So go on.
But I was so annoyed because it was the second time it happened. If when I'm not feeling tired, if I'm feeling peaceful and calm and life's great, then I probably just think, oh. But I just think, like you were talking about, Alex, isn't it? It's your frame of mind sometimes decides, what's already in your head sometimes decides whether you're going to react angrily to something or not, doesn't it?
Yes, and this is why, and we'll talk about this in the second half hour, about prayer, because prayer can initiate peace, and that can change your status straight off the bat, and I love that, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, it is interesting. In fact, I remember you saying, it's not big enough for this laptop.
Then I'll start blaming the table for not being big enough.
It's the table's fault. It's the chair arm's fault.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely.
So
go on and read the next bit then, Angel.
So yes, interesting facts. This is that Kate did wonderful research for it. Our researcher found that I'm just trying to find it.
She might have to be the equivalent of the QI elves, I think.
Yeah.
QI elves. Yeah, go on, Kate. Our QI elf. Yeah.
80% of people believe that Britain is getting angrier. So it says 20% say that they've ended a relationship due to anger issues, and that anger has been linked to heart attacks and strokes. And that anger in children is more frustration at not getting their own way. So there's a few little facts there. But interesting, I don't know how they get these statistics that 80% of people are getting angry. I'm not disbelieving it. I'm sure it's true, but you know what I mean. I'm wondering how they measure these.
Well,
things.
let's not go on the statistic accuracy, but I think there's some valid points there. Interesting about anger being linked to heart attacks and strokes. I think things when you're under stress. I mean, I don't know how they'd measure that as well. I'm thinking, we've got all these people, and they've all been suffering from great deals of stress, and a certain percentage of them keeled over. And had heart attacks or whatever. I don't know. But I think prolonged any emotion is bad for us.
Yeah.
Even if it's prolonged the sense of love, it's bad for us. We need to have this balance of our emotions. That makes me sound like I'm promoting being Vulcan, isn't it, really? And you do the Vulcan thing. But if anyone doesn't get that Star Trek stuff,
negative emotions, isn't it, that wear us out?
Yeah.
It's either like anger or I don't know. I suppose what else is there?
Negative emotions?
Like
do you not
like despair and grief and stuff? Are those not the things that cause us stress, worry? That I suppose all of those things. If they're out of kilter, if they're too much. They cause us stress, don't they?
I don't know. Does anyone ever end up in a huge prolonged state of a positive emotion?
I don't know.
I think I did do that when I came to faith. Actually, that was a positive emotion for a huge amount of time. That was quite intriguing. But yeah, I suppose prolonged negative emotions. Okay, for sure. I do wonder if that would work in a positive sense as well. There should be a balance. Balance is key, isn't it?
I wonder if we think that, do we agree that people are getting angrier then? Because the statistics Kate found seem to say that, is it getting more usual for people to be angry?
I don't know. I suppose what I'm kind of thinking about is, and of course I can't refer to something from the past because I can't say I was there and lived it. But do you think people perhaps are quick to anger nowadays more so? See, I find this when I think about like the north-south divide. Let's just turn my mic down a bit. I think I'm a bit out there. Yeah, when I think about the North-South divide and kind of the busyness, the rat race of the South, which of course Simon will know very much about because his church is in London, is, you know, he kind of knows that everyone's racing around like mad. And of course, when you get down to the coast and you know, everything's a bit more chilled out and people are more kind of relaxed. And as you move up the country, you come to here as well in the northwest, and it's more chilled out as well. That, you know, I think living in a social environment can change things. And like you always see how people are on the tube and stuff like that in London. You know, it's kind of a very interesting dynamic. So do you think people are more quick to anger because we've got such busier lifestyles? We're working, we've got so much going on that it's difficult for us to process stuff all the time. Think that might be it?
Well, maybe, yeah, it might be contributing, mightn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
When things happen, and I was just going to say, thinking about people reacting. You know, when you watch, not that I watch all the soaps, but Coronation Street. I've mentioned this before.
Again.
Coronation Street is great for these things because when things happen in Corrie, people go round shouting the odds. That's what you do. You storm across the road and you tear a strip off whoever it is,
and you beat someone up.
And you go home and shout at your partner about it, or you know, there's a lot of anger in soaps. That's all I would say, like quick anger as well. So whether that's sort of trying to reflect what they think's happening, or whether it's trying to, I don't know what it is.
What do you guys think watching? Do you think that people are quicker to anger nowadays than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago? You know, assuming that you're both over 20 or 30, which I think I'm probably right there. But, you know, do you think people are quicker to anger? Do you sense it? I suppose it depends. I mean, also it's difficult in your environment if you don't, you know, the people that you speak to. Oh, we've got a good evening, so I think I know that this is our mystery watcher with no name. I think that's Jacqueline.
Yes.
Hello,
Hi,
Jacqueline.
Great to
glad
see you.
Glad you could join us. I'm glad you weren't there at the beginning. It was a right fast, but we got here.
We got here. Yeah.
So, so the question is, we've got one in here. Simon's pulled one in here. People get very angry online. Less consequence and direct confrontation. It's like
that's true.
It's like being behind the wheel of a car, isn't it? Same thing.
It's like road rage.
It's either the wheel of a car or behind a keyboard. You know? Keyboard warrior. Yeah, people can do that, can't they? They feel a sense of protection. You know why? Yeah, that's another reason why people don't get angry if they kind of think, if I do this, you kind of check yourself, don't you? I'm not going to get angry next to a bunch of burly blokes that are built like, you know, I can't think of the one that doesn't swear in it. Brick toilets.
We know what you mean.
Brick toilets. Yeah. You're not going to show anger to them, are you? You're kind of, that wouldn't be a wise move.
Yeah.
But we might be able to do that if we're sat behind, you know, 1.5 tons worth of steel.
Yeah.
Or if we're actually behind a keyboard.
Yeah. You see it a lot as a Facebook group I'm part of called Wallasey Gossip. So, you know, which has got all sorts of things on it.
I think the clue's in the name there.
And but when we first moved here, I joined it to sort of go trying to grab what's going on, you know, because it isn't just gossip, it's anything that's happening, you know. Why is there a police car down at Central Park, whatever. But quite often I don't read it because I can read the first 3 words that say but have done this, you know. It's like just abuse straight away. It's somebody really ranting. So I do notice that happens a lot on that. Yeah.
Next to the most popular question on there is, what's the cue to the tip like? Yeah, which is a good one.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look at this one. Another one coming in from Simon there. So, wonder if that online contributes to the general anger and frustration. We're getting more used to getting angry about stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if that online contributes to general anger and frustration. What do you mean? I'm just trying to a little bit more clarification. Anyway, I'm going to put the link up if anyone wants to join us. Let me just do that in a second. I'll put that up in a second. I think that, it's an interesting question. Is by what measure? Because you're in an online world whereby everyone's angry, or it's like free to be more angry and expressive emotionally, or what? Right, I'm going to dig out the link for anyone that wants to join us. Let me just grab that. I always open the teleprompter software. The icon for the teleprompter software is exactly the same as my note. Right, so if I jam this in here, if anybody wants to join us and they've got a mic and a camera, click on that link and you can come and join us live in the studio.
Or you can come without the camera if you'd rather not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't have to put your face up. We can have you blanked out and just audio. So if you want to join, you can just click on it, and it will say, "Can you can vMix use your camera and microphone?" And you just say yes, and then you'll appear by magic, and then I can bring you in, and you can talk to us. We tried the phone system for ages, but the phone system is unreliable. People are phoning in, and then audio is just cutting out. So if anyone wants to join, by all means do, and put a note in the comments if you fancy joining. I've got 2 of these. If in fact I could have 4. So, but I just don't know where to put all the faces and voices if that's the case. So I could have 2 people on as well at the same time. So if you fancy it, just click on the link. You won't go live automatically. I'd have to do something with it. So I'll see you all there first. So let's just go back to that comment from Simon.
From Simon, I wonder if it's it's like a culture
I'm
thing.
going to bring that up again because it's quite an interesting
Yeah.
one. Wonder if that contributes online. That is contributes to a greater anger and frustration. He's got another one here. Let's see what this comes in as. Can you read that?
Yeah, we get angry more often because we almost train ourselves to get angry. A lot of media use titles and clickbait, which is intentionally inflammatory, literally designed to evoke an emotion, often anger.
Well, yeah, you're very much on the ball there when you invoke media to try and get an emotional response from people. Yeah. They're very good at that, aren't they, the media? Bear in mind that they're losing people hand over fist. They're no longer buying copies of their content. So, yeah, they have to do whatever they can to bring people in. Hence, often medias are full of lies and all this sort of stuff. No, very good point. Very good point.
Yeah,
we get angry more often because we must train ourselves to get more angry.
It becomes like a cultural thing, doesn't it? That's what you expect, isn't it? If you expect to see, if it's normal just to see these inflammatory headlines and for people to be, being angry online, I suppose things become more acceptable, don't they? Maybe.
I don't know. I think I'm trying to reflect on his first comment. We get more angry because we train ourselves. How do we train ourselves?
Almost train ourselves. It's like, well, that's the way people are, isn't it? So that's how you react, isn't it? That's what I mean about a culture thing,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a bit like Corrie. That's how everybody reacts. There's something doesn't happen where everyone says, "Oh well, I suppose you ought to take a step back, and have a think about this." It's always because it's much more entertaining for someone to go around and knock 7 bells out of somebody or go around and shout the odds in the pub. Because that's better entertainment, isn't it? And that's why that's like that.
All right, but that's Corrie. That's Corrie.
Yes, I know,
and the question is how much of that's reality? I mean,
if you watch that all the time, though, if that's what the soaps are like, because EastEnders is the same. Not that I really watch EastEnders, but from the little bit I've seen.
All right, so are you pointing?
I'm trying to get at this culture thing.
All right, so are you pointing out one of my biggest fears with soap operas is that they can actually effectively have an impact on people's perception of reality?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, well, isn't that a bad thing?
Well, yes, I think it is.
See, that's one of my biggest gripes about soaps is that people who watch soap operas could, in some sense, believe that to be how the world really is. And they see somebody like their favourite star on a soap opera. I mean, don't be wrong, soap operas and Corries have been going way longer than the internet. But, the people go and say, well, yeah, that's obviously a natural behaviour.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look. There's another one coming from Kate. What have we got from Kate? There always seems to be a look for the negative rather than the positive. Well, is that because we're all miserable? Is that what it is? Is it we're all a miserable country? What's it say? 80%. What was it? 8% of people think Britain's getting angrier. So maybe she's got a point here. Are we all just getting angry?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. We all do get angry at some point. I don't know if we're getting angrier, if I'm honest.
Do you think there's a justification? Oh, let's look at the lockdowns and all that sort of stuff. There's certain senses of things that went on throughout that, and let's not get into the political conversations about who was doing what, who was doing it, or talk about big farmers or whatever. But there's a sense there was a collective coming together for people, so there's a camaraderie, which I really loved with regards to what was going on with regards to the pandemic. And then towards the end, when obviously people had run out of steam entirely, it's like, people were getting more angry about the situation and stuff. People could be able to put up and do stuff for so long. But, I think Blighty, that's part of the things I like about Blighty is a bit of a coming together, but I suspect most countries are like that. It's not a Blighty thing, is it? It's not a UK thing or an English trait, if you will. Yeah, but I think we always seem to look for the negatives rather than the positives. Do you know, I remember I used to have quite a nice sports car, and the roof went down on it. I kind of swore I'd try and get one before I was 30. I don't tap into such things anymore. But I remember parking outside my brother-in-law's house with the roof down, and it was a comment my uncle made. And what had happened is someone had wandered past and spat in the passenger seat on the seat. And he said, "Oh, really, I despair of that, But he said that's typical British culture." And I said, "What?" He said, "It's It's just what people do is they look at people's success and they say, oh, that's awful. You can't have that. Or if I can't have it, you can't have it either." But he said, if you're in America, the Americans would be much more kind of congratulatory of your success. And I thought that was a really interesting thing from a culture perspective about people sort of drawing on the positive versus the negative, as exactly Kate has just said. Well, okay, these two are going very quick. Let's bring this next one in from Simon. People were definitely grumpier after lockdown, yeah. It's getting better now, but there were a lot of confrontations over the most minor issues. Yeah, okay. And what we've got here from Kate regarding similar thing. Yes, but during lockdown we had more time for each other. So
during lockdown.
Yeah. So what she's saying is that I think that kind of affirms sort of what I was saying is that when we're having these busy, hectic lives, that sort of stuff, it's we're all kind of so busy that it's easier to sort of jump to that. How angry were people when they got up in the morning by the light of the day and lived their life where the clock was the day? It was like the farming community. How angry did you get if you got up, did your farming day and got on with it, and then that was it? The world's changed significantly since the Industrial Revolution, and what we do as a society, the work that we all do. It's such a much bigger rat race that I think that can't help but have had an impact on society.
Yeah, well, I think Kate's point's a really good one about people having more time for each other, because that and Simon's comment about people being grumpier, because and I felt it as well when you started coming out of it. You actually got used to, I suppose you call it the quiet life, wouldn't you? Although we were busy with this stuff, but there's no demands to go out and go from place to place with people as that there was in normal times, was there? And I think actually it's been quite painful having to go back to the busyness of life, and just little snippets and things like as the estate agents saying, there's been a big demand in houses in the countryside and on the coast, because it's made people rethink what's important in life, and probably that actually when you didn't have to rush around every 2 minutes doing this, that and the other, actually although it wasn't good, I'm not saying lockdown was good, but there were benefits, and I'm just saying that transition from being like that and having fewer expectations on you to be busy, zooming from X, Y and Z place. It's hard to readjust back to that, isn't it? So maybe that's account of some of the grumpiness.
But again, that kind of reendorses what I'm saying, though, is the fact that, whilst things are ticking along in a normal society, rather than everyone running around like headless chickens, it's difficult to do all of that processing. So anger can be an easy thing to go to. So, I think just the nature of society now is that, go back again in society, you'd have people that where the husband would go out and work, and the woman was at home bringing up the family, and that doesn't exist anymore in the same sense. People both have to work. Society's made that happen. Anyway, Simon's put this up, which is a good obvious link to the next bit, which is there a good anger though.
Yeah, so it's not all bad,
we have actually tripped the half-hour mark, so we probably want to start talking about this from a spiritual sense. But yeah, there definitely is a good anger. One of the things, do you want to talk about that injustice?
Well, just generally, or it doesn't even have to be on the spiritual thing. I think there's time, like getting angry. Obviously anger has to be sort of managed, isn't it? It can be really destructive, can't it? If people are really angry about things. I mean, for yourself as well as for other people, isn't it? So, you can make yourself ill with ongoing anger that you can't resolve. And also, if people are angry, it does affect. It frightens other people, can't it? It can upset other
it
people.
rattles my ASD when
Yeah.
I've got people angry around me. I tend to move away from situations like that.
Yeah. So, but it isn't all bad because it is at the end of the day everybody gets angry, don't they? I don't mean everybody gets angry all the time, but it's one of the list of emotions that we have, isn't it? And
We certainly worry about
yeah.
someone who never gets angry.
yeah, so things anger us, but I think yes, Simon's right, and that anger can be because anger isn't just going back to the beginning here when Kate gave us those definitions, and one of them was saying a lot of it is about things that hurt you, or you think are unjust from your point of view. So it isn't often it's about individuals, isn't it? You get angry with individuals because so and so said this or didn't do that, but we can be angry at things in the news as well, can't we? We can be angry at injustice, angry at, stories, the war, people being abused, Partygate. There's loads of things in the news that can make you feel angry. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing, is it? If it's about injustice, particularly for people who are vulnerable and stuff, isn't it? It's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's still, but it's, I mean, I think that, there's a sort of brave anger. I think there's a difference as well. There's a slight difference from that. So of course, when it's us that's feeling the emotional sense, and it's happening to us at the time. So we can react in that snap, anger, whatever. But I guess when we look at things on TV and we think, Ukraine war, all this sort of stuff, the injustices you're talking about, often that kind of seems like it comes from a third person. We're not there directly in that relationship with the anger. So we kind of look at it and we think that's shocking, that's awful. That's still a different thing. But I guess it's when you're in a situation when you have to stand up for something that's happening there and then. That's a different kind. Can you recall a situation when you've had to get angry at somebody that you felt justified to do, or to show anger when you felt justified to personally do it, which isn't sort of on the kind of safety of this side of a TV screen, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. And sometimes, I think you do. So I suppose you can get angry with small kids. So they're about to do something that could harm themselves. That's when you show anger. In a sense, it's like to quickly diffuse a situation. Is it anger, or maybe it's just something else? I don't know. Maybe anger's not the right thing. But I know what you're saying, and I know Simon's comment about being justifiably angry. But how does that represent itself? Let's have a look at this one from Kate. So good anger is something which brings about positive change.
I mean, people.
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you tend to think, well, people get angry about, I don't know, just lots of things. The environment, isn't it? I mean, and I suppose it's all subjective, isn't it? That actually, that all this people being angry about what the government's doing, promotes people trying to bring out change, whether it's the environment or whether it's what else is the Partygate, the fuel crisis, whatever. I suppose the government's quite a good example because actually often it's people being really vocal and being angry about it that can sometimes bring about change, isn't it? If something's happening that's not right, then sometimes being angry about it.
The only one that leaps to mind is the what was it? The poll charge. Was it the poll charge?
The poll tax.
Poll tax.
Years ago, yeah.
When Thatcher pulled that out the bag and everyone went to protest it, that kind of worked. That's the one that springs to mind now. I'm very conscious we've kind of got about 20 minutes left. We haven't done much on the faith thing, so we'll just move to that in a sec.
Okay.
Do you want to take it on to?
Well, there's another comment come up, is there? Just having a look.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Simon.
Sorry, good spot. My bad.
So being slow to anger and not losing control is what's important. Anger can be a good motivator.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I agree.
I was talking about that before, actually. I watched a video about just a situation. I won't go into it, but there was a situation where somebody expressed very good balance about dealing with something that any one of us could have actually shown a great deal of anger for. And you're absolutely right, Simon. Being able to show a composure and remain composed in that is it's very good. And also it makes you think clearer. If you do it, if you react in anger, you can obviously when you do that, chuck the toys out the pram, is make remarks you perhaps regret, or that sort of stuff. Anyway, no, very good point. Right, go on, Revo, bring in some God into this.
Well, just interesting what Simon should say about being slow to anger. So some of the things, some of the verses in the Bible, one of them is James, your favourite book, Alex.
Yeah.
James 1, 19 to 20, he says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires." So it sort of links a bit, isn't it, to sort of controlling, I suppose, your anger and, as you say, because it can be right anger, isn't it? You can justifiably be feeling angry against people. So, but I suppose it's about what you do with that, isn't it, and how you convey it to people.
We've got another one in from Simon. Let's bring this in.
Yeah.
I got angry in church and had to control it. Only my wife realised how angry I was. Yeah. Because she knows you well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, it's like how, even if people realise you're angry, then it's the trouble is that if you don't control it, I suppose it can escalate, can't it? And things can start to go wrong, can't they? But sometimes it's difficult.
That reminds me of one of my favourite films. Is it To Sir with Love? One of the very Sidney Poitier played. He played a teacher in London. I think it must have been shot in the 60s. This film. It's one of my favourite films, anyway. But he gets so angry at himself because he showed anger towards the kids, and he should never do that. And I guess it's the same in most. When we're in roles of authority, be it teachers, or I guess it's the same for clergy, not that I'm sure how often you get angry, or with Simon, how, a situation might arise where that might produce some anger. It's important that we show composure, don't we? We need to show composure. The outcome is always better. But I think the good thing in that piece of scripture from James is it's quick to listen. We need to listen, because if we're not listening, we're not observing the truth of what it's like we're too busy listening out for specific things, perhaps, rather than to listen to the truth of it all. Yeah. So, that's a good one. Have you got anything else you want to add?
Only another verse that Kate found for us is Ephesians 4, and I've sort of found the Message version because I quite like that one. The Message version of it says, "Go ahead and be angry. You will do well to be angry, but don't use your anger as fuel for revenge, and don't stay angry. Don't go to bed angry. Don't give the devil that kind of foothold in your life." So it's sort of, I know, to me, I thought it's like acknowledging that we all do get angry, and actually I don't believe that it's sort of, that we are meant never to be angry. I don't think that's true at all. But it's about what you do with it, isn't it? I think for me it was like pointing out, not to use it for revenge and don't hold on to it. Because if we get angry and then we start to want, because of perceived injustice, and then you want to get your own back on people, that's when things escalate, isn't it? If you start to have to.
Is that an eye for an eye type stuff?
Yeah. I suppose those are the things where it escalates, isn't it? Because if you're angry and you just saying, right, okay, so and so's done this thing, right, I'm going to get my own back, then the situation escalates. So you're acting on it, aren't you, in a negative way, I suppose, is all I'm saying. Yeah.
That reminds me of Tom Sawyer type and Huckleberry Finn type literature, where you've got the kind of tribal standoff between two families, where they've been an injustice between one, and it's just been something that's rattled on for generations.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. That. We talked about this briefly as well. I wasn't sure if this was bitterness and stuff. It's that things that have happened in the past. Two real things that you can totally understand the anger that sit behind it is Hillsborough and Dunblane. These are two horrendous things that have happened. The Dunblane, if people don't know, is a shooting in Scotland many, many, many years ago. And someone had gone into a school and murdered lots of kids, and that's just terrible. So you can understand the anger, those huge anger and outcry at the time. And, of course, Hillsborough, very, very tricky thing for a lot of people from where we are, because it's Liverpool. was playing at Hillsborough, and there was a problem there, and I'm sure everyone who knows about it, and there's 97 people, or 98, I can't remember the exact number, people died basically they were crushed, and it was terrible. And, the thing about the anger from that, you still recognise stuff. I mean, I still hear things about people still being angry at Dunblane. And that there is, I mean, we talked about watching I think it was a documentary, wasn't it, or something about Dunblane, and one of the parents of a child that was killed sadly on that day, whatever, over 30 years ago, is still so riled and angry about it, and you kind of wonder about the impact of that pent-up anger. So anger's an interesting flip, because of course, where do we find the ability to, how do you get over it? How do you is forgiveness the only way to get over those sort of things? 'Cause some people will never forgive. Well,
no, I suppose it's like other things in life, isn't it? From a Christian point of view, it's holding it up and praying about it, isn't it? And keep holding it up, because it's if you can't let things go, then it becomes destructive, doesn't it? And you're the one that's hurting. It's like forgiveness, isn't it? You're the one that's hurting, not the person you're angry with. So, it's...
Well, yeah, because you've got pent-up emotion. Again, as you said, the cost of negative emotions running on for too long, regardless of, the reasons behind it, must be very damaging to people. I think, that must be a really tragic position for someone to be in. And I was talking about when we first opened, and I said about anger, and being in the wrong frame of mind. One of the things I often find through prayer, we may do, when we do prayer in the morning, that we do every morning, when we do prayer, I might be not in the right frame of mind when I start, but I'm always definitely in the right frame of mind when I finish. So it's almost like, when where we talk about I'm feeling a bit punchy because I'm tired or something, prayer's a good thing to just do that, like slow everything down, get the peace of God with you, hold it up. And I talk about, not just holding up a dear Lord, make me not so stressed out, amen. There's a bit more to it. You got to kind of get in the zone, I think, and properly pray. But yeah, I always come out of that feeling a million times better. Which is, I think, a good.
Or even asking for a different perspective on it, isn't it, as well? Because sometimes that's hard, isn't it? I mean, there isn't an easy answer thing, especially when people are angry about really deep-seated hurts and things, isn't it? It's something that can take time, isn't it? But I think sort of what it's saying in those verses anyway really is, just because God's slow to anger as well, isn't it? It's about becoming more like Jesus and how we are, isn't it? So it's always a challenge, but
to become more Jesus-like. Well, he apparently showed a certain degree of anger at least once. Did he not? So what's that? Where's that from? Do you know the actual scripture for it?
Well, it's in all the Gospels. The clearing of the temple. He cleared when just before the Passover, when he went to the temple, didn't he? And he in the temple, people were selling animals, but also when people went to the temple for Passover, they had to pay the temple tax, and so there are money changers there. So people with coins from different places had to exchange, and of course they were charged a fee for that. So
there's a lot of business happening in the middle of a spiritual place.
Yes. So Jesus said something like, you've made it into a den of robbers. This is a place of prayer. So it was like an indignation really against, I think, not just the fact that people were being exploited for money, which they were, because you had no choice but to pay this tax, but also that it was in God's house. It was in this place, this holy place, that actually this was happening. So Jesus drove them out. It says in the Bible. So
turned over tables and shouted at them all.
Turned over tables, yeah.
Yeah.
Told them.
Here's another time that Simon's thrown out in.
Yeah. Yes, get behind me, Satan. Yeah.
He said to Peter.
That's right, yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about this because actually, when you think of a lot of the things that Jesus said, because he was really rude as well to the Pharisees, wasn't he? You hypocrites. Of course we don't know.
Bunch of vipers.
We don't know. And so did John the Baptist, but we don't know from the Bible what tone Jesus said these things in, but they do sound as if they're angry statements. So I mean, there are some people who argue that Jesus couldn't have done that, but because Jesus was fully human and divine, yes, he would have got angry. And there is one passage in the Bible that describes him as being angry, and that was when he went into the temple, and there was the man with the withered hand, and the Pharisees were waiting to catch him out. They were waiting to see if he's going to heal. And
heal on the Sabbath.
Heal on the Sabbath. And Jesus said to them, well, what's right? Is it right to heal? And they wouldn't answer him. And it says, I've got it somewhere, there's actually uses the words. I'm sorry, just try and find the
Right, anyway,
scripture.
Just whilst you're doing
But
that,
he was...
Go on, I was just going to say, that's the scripture that Kate has fired up for the in the temple.
Yeah. It is. I've got the one from Mark here. Mark, but it doesn't. Yes, Matthew. It's in Matthew as well. But the one about the man with the shriveled hand, or whatever we call it, it actually says that he looked around at them in anger, deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts. So because they were so, intent on what they thought was right and following the law, that they'd lost their love for. They weren't. I don't know. I mean, you can interpret it in lots of ways. They were stubborn hearts because they weren't open to Jesus, and they were willing to sort of let this man be there on display and see what Jesus would do, and not actually acting out of love for this man. And also, they were the people who were supposed to be teaching, weren't they? They were the people to guide people to God, and here they were, sort of doing the opposite, really. So. Anyway, that's one part where it actually says that Jesus was angry.
Yeah, I think Matthew 21 was the one about the turning of the tables in the temple. That's what Kate's put in there.
Yes.
Just to relate things, because we always get a bit confused. And Jacqueline's put up a comment as well. So that one.
Righteous anger. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Good phrase. Yeah.
Righteous anger.
I think that sort of Jesus' actions, if you like, show us that righteous anger, there is righteous anger, isn't there? And that's fine. And so it goes back to what Simon said as well about there being good anger, isn't there? It has a good function, or it can have a good function, can't it? Because there are things that we should be angry about, aren't there? Because they are unjust, and because they're hurting people, especially weaker people, people who can't defend themselves, I mean by that, maybe. Then of course we should be angry, and it's that makes us try and act on it.
That is righteous anger, though, isn't it? There's a justification for it, and it's the right thing to do. So yeah, go on then. Was there someone else you're going to lead on to, or is that what you've got?
Let's have a look. Oh, I think that's the sort of key of it, isn't it? Yeah, I think.
So I suppose from a spiritual perspective, and you mentioned earlier, you talked about that. What was the thing about biblical sense? So anger's not a sin. It's not a sin to show anger.
No.
Anger's anger's it's just
not a sin to be angry, is it?
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Isn't that what I've just said?
No, you said showing anger, so I don't know if that's what. And also, it might not be. It's probably not a sin to show anger either. But I think when it's a bit out of control, when it's out of control, or if it's destructive,
all right, okay,
that's when it's a sin. Yeah,
you're getting too in depth, right? So the point is, anger's not a sin in its own right. I suppose yes, if you're angry and start battering people, it's not the right thing. All right, so anger in its own right isn't a sin, as everything else, Anyway, whatever. Anger's not a sin, but it depends where it goes. And I think that Jacqueline's comment about righteous anger is a good point.
Yeah.
Anger's justified on so many things. I think when you hear about with Jesus getting angry with Peter, saying, "Get behind me, Satan." Jesus getting angry in the temple. The story you've just mentioned about him being angry at the Pharisees and stuff. We see the evidence of that in the Bible. That anger is in its own right not a sinful act. But I think the key thing which you're trying to allude to there, I think, is that anger can lead to sin if you allow it to become out of control or if it's mismanaged.
Yeah.
And I guess it leads us back to that concept of, Simon being in a situation of he was obviously pushed to a point where he was angry about something that was going on, and he managed that anger. And I feel sorry for people that struggle with anger management. And there's a lot of people out there. I mean, we hear the comment, don't we? People see red mist. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's something that is an uncontrollable thing.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not quite sure how to have a compassion for those people, because often I'm kind of in one of those kind of stressed out situations where it's difficult to do it. But, how do you deal with people that have uncontrollable anger? How would we as Christians deal with people that have uncontrollable anger? What's the message for people out of that? I mean, the key thing is that people struggle all the time with certain things, certain aspects, mental health, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Is uncontrollable anger, is that sort of stuff a mental issue? I mean,
It can be. Yeah.
People go to anger management classes and stuff to try and help them deal with anger.
But people who have diagnosed mental problems also often have anger as often part of it, isn't
But
it?
yeah, I think
so
that
it can be an illness.
I mean, it can be, but it can also be linked to frustration, as you have in young people. That they exercise frustration because they don't know how to cope with something, and I think that can happen as well. I think especially on ASD spectrum, people get very angry because they're unable necessarily, depending on where you are on the spectrum. Clearly, I get angry sometimes when I'm trying to explain something and I'm not getting it right, whereby. And it's anger. It's angry because it's a frustration of me that I can't come up with the right words. And often you hear me even when we're streaming. I'll go, "What's the word?" And I'm desperately trying to find the right stuff, which other people seem to find is slightly easier than I do. But yeah, we get frustrated. We all get frustrated, and that can manifest as anger.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't sit there laughing about the fact you can't. Whatever. So anyway. We're down to the last few minutes, Elaine, even though we started a few minutes late. Sorry about that. Try and not do that next week. That would be good.
The only thing I was going to say that was just in my head, and I think somebody had mentioned it, is being angry with yourself as well. You mentioned it, Alex, isn't it? You can be angry with yourself for having been angry.
No, it was you.
Was it?
You did it because you threw the glass of water across the studio.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
In fact, you weren't angry with yourself. You were angry first with the table, then with the chair.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you're probably kind of buttoned lip angry at yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could be angry with yourself for having been angry with the table. That's what I mean. It's that sort of thing. Or I've been angry with people. I've been angry when I've been wound up by somebody. This happened to me quite recently. Wound up by somebody who I think was, I don't know whether they're doing deliberately or not, but actually I sort of fell for it, So if you get angry with that person, then then you go away thinking, well, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done that. I should have been more.
Sitting potty at the kids in, please, sir. You know what I mean? It's sometimes we just get led into those situations. Yeah. And I guess from my point on that is do you know what? Don't be so tough on yourself. It's emotional, and we're all human. Unless it's led to something that needs some sort of apology or whatever like that, which often, most things are solved by using the words "thank you" and "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
That's my kind of total overriding factor on life.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're down to the last couple of minutes, so we'll finish on a prayer in a second, we'll do something in the last minute to finish on a prayer. Is there anything else you want to finish up with, Elaine? Anything else you want to add to this? Apart from thanks to everyone who's joined us, clearly.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
I think we've got a lurker, so whoever you are lurking, I'm so glad that you're here. And if you want to announce yourself next week, then you can do. If not, you carry on lurking, doing whatever you feel comfortable with. Just glad that you managed to join us tonight.
Yes, it's been good to have you here. Good conversations, lots to think about, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start us off in... Oh, hang on. Oh, here's another one. We won't go into this, but yes, she's right. Some people are angry at themselves because they're not feeling good enough. Yeah. Often the thing,
Yeah. I think you're right
angry,
there, Kate.
Angry at angry, because you should. You feel like you should feel good. You should be good enough, but you don't feel it. So that's good. Right. Anyway, so I'm just going to drop a prayer in, Elaine. You might want to finish on prayer too. So Heavenly Father, we just thank you for Unleashed Broadcast and this opportunity for us to be able to talk to community and share our themes in preparation for Sunday service. We're just grateful for Jacqueline and for Simon and Kate that came along live, and for our lurker as well, and anyone else that watches us on Catch Up, Lord. And we just pray that we come together in this way and be part of something. So in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Yes, Lord, just ask for your blessing on everybody tonight. And we just hold up all these discussions, Lord, for you to sift and help us to understand you know, what you want us to do in these situations, Lord, and to help us to come to you when we're not sure, Lord, or if we're feeling angry. So we just thank you for all this time and these discussions together. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Yeah, so everyone have a blessed few days, and we will see you on Sunday.
Yeah.